Okay, this is Unit 4 Lesson 1. Unit 4 Lesson 1 for Sec1 Geography. Water supply, will our taps run dry? Now for this particular unit, you will be doing it in a slightly different manner. You'll be watching this as a preview. I'll run through the slides, after which there will be time given to you to write down your notes. Each group will be given a set of the A3 printout notes. Please transfer the information. If you want to summarize, please go ahead and put it into your notebooks. Now, if you have not collected your notebooks, please collect it from the front of the geography room in your boxes. Do not collect your files, only collect your notebooks. Thank you. Okay, now that we're ready, a few thinking questions before we start. This unit, we are looking at water, so a couple of these questions are pertinent to us. Firstly, what is water shortage? Okay, having lived in Singapore for most of us, or currently living in Singapore, we're very fortunate that we don't really have very severe cases of water shortage due to our good management practices. Now, you will be exposed to some of these practices as we move on within the unit itself. We will also be looking at the locations in the world that are facing water shortages. We will also be analyzing why water shortage occurs, and when it occurs, how does it impact people and countries, and how we have managed to avoid water shortage as an issue. Now for this particular lesson, okay, whenever you see this red starship sign, it means you have to copy this information down onto your notebooks. Okay, so later when you are doing the transcribing, after I've gone through this video, please note anything with this starship logo you have to transcribe. Now in this lesson, we will be looking at the hydrological cycle. We will also be looking at identifying some of the common uses of water, and ending off with a definition of water shortage. So these are your three key lesson objectives for this lesson. This lesson will last a total of 3 periods, including a two-sided exercise that you will have to do. So if your 3 periods are stacked back to back, you will finish this in one shot. If you have a single period today and a double period in another sitting, please remember we are going to continue with the activity throughout these 3 lessons. The hydrological cycle. Now, you may know this as the water cycle in primary school, but given that we're now in secondary, the correct geographical term is the hydrological cycle. It refers to the continuous movement of water from the Earth's surface to the atmosphere and then back into form on the Earth's surface. Now, the Earth, you must remember, is a closed system. Now, what is a closed system? A terrarium is a closed system. So most of you will have an idea of what a terrarium is. Now, basically, when you talk about a system as a closed system, it means that you do not introduce any new things into it, or you do not lose things to the external area. So Earth is a closed system in the hydrological sense because we do not really get a lot of water from space. Similarly, we do not lose a lot of water to space. Okay, water is only one of the items that is encased in Earth, this closed system that we have called Earth. Is it true that we do not lose any at all? No, because there are projectiles and equipment that we transport out into space, like your space station, your satellites, the rubbish that the astronauts leave in space. Those are things that are lost, but the amount is so minimal, right? So it doesn't really count. Now, water on Earth is, because it's a closed system, is trapped in various forms. You have solid water, liquid water, and gaseous water. This you have learned in primary school, and I will not spend more time on this. 7 key vocabulary that you need to know. You need to know how to spell. Evaporation, transpiration, condensation, precipitation, infiltration, and surface runoff. Finally, you have groundwater flow. Now, this can be found within your textbook, so you are advised strongly at the end of your 3 periods to go back and read through the first 10 pages of water in your textbook for this week. Water has many uses. Okay, if you look around your class now, you will see many of your friends having a strong reliance on water because they have their water bottles with them. Now, fresh water has key use for human beings is consumption. Okay, But when you talk about the Earth and the Earth's uses of water, fresh water, we can split it generally into three main domains: the industry, the domestic, as well as the agriculture. Okay, now globally, on average, industries use about 22% of it. Domestic use is only 8%. So the largest use of fresh water in the world is actually through agriculture. Okay, domestic consumption. Now these are basically consumption in the domestic domain, in the personal home, domestic domain, consumption of water through direct drinking, or in the food that we prepare, in the preparation process, in the various form of food that we take, soup, or even in rice, where you infuse it into the rice grain and then becomes cooked rice. So this is one key way in which we use water at home. Hygiene purposes include most importantly showering and keeping yourself generally clean. You should shower, and things like flushing the toilet after using, washing your dishes after using. So these are basic things that we do, and it involves quite a lot of water. Last one is the amenity use. Things like washing your home, your windows, washing your cars, your bicycles, your skateboards, or whatever. Doing gardening. These are amenity uses that we all partake in some way as a human in the domestic domain. However, the volume and the method and the variety of ways that we use water in the domestic domain actually varies largely between homes. For example, there are people who do not wash their floors, maybe once or twice a year, that's it, and they wear their shoes at home. However, there are also people who are very, very particular about the floor cleanliness, and they wash it once a day. So that it's cleaner than maybe some of the tables we have in school. And there are also cultural practices and climatic conditions that will affect how you use water. So if you look at a Singaporean and a Canadian, right, look at the total amount of water that is used by a Singaporean and a Canadian in a study that's shown in your textbook, or a study done in 2011, you realize that we use a lot less water than the Canadians. It is also because of the lifestyle that we lead. Okay, a typical Singaporean family doesn't have a bathtub at home. So when you shower using a shower head and you shower using a bathtub, the difference in volume is massive. Economic use, for agricultural purposes, we use a lot of water. It's the greatest use of water globally. We need a lot of water for growing crops, both food and non-food crops. You need to know some crops that we grow are not for food. They can be for fuel, they can be for animal feed, but not directly for human consumption. So when you have an increase in the global population, you would correspondingly want more food, or need more food to feed this larger population in the world. Existingly, we are over 7 billion. Okay, we are a population of over 7 billion on the planet, and we are increasing rapidly. So this demand for more water to meet agricultural demands is going to just increase continually. Now, one big use of it is irrigation. So when you have irrigation, it means you add water to areas that you're planting your crops, so that you can continue to have good harvest, or at least the plants don't die. Industries constitute about 22% of global water used. A lot of it is actually used for power generation. However, we're not talking about using hydropower alone. Most form of power generation, power plants, whichever it is, nuclear, thermal, or hydro, or whatever it is, it requires water as a cooling agent. So because a lot of heat is generated when you are creating power through the various forms, so water is used as a coolant. As a result, it uses a lot of water. Now the tourism industry is also another one that uses a lot of water. And with the rise of tourism globally, water use will only increase rapidly. Now let's move on to something that you can track yourself: your water footprint. Now basically, water footprint is the amount of water you actually use as a human being. The total amount of water used to produce goods and services used by the person counts as the water footprint. Not only the amount you use or you consume, but things that are hidden in the process of making, maybe for example, your pencil case. It needs power. So how much water is used to create the power required to manufacture a pencil case? Okay. There are countries that use more water, so they have larger water footprints, and then there are countries that have correspondingly smaller ones because they use less water, less resources, and so technically they seem to be more environmentally friendly. Developed countries and countries that produce a lot of energy or agriculture generally speaking will have larger footprints, and this should make a lot of sense. You think back to the earlier few slides that we looked at. If you do consume or you do produce a lot of energy, you will consume a lot more water. Similarly for agriculture. So what happens when you have a lot of water usage? You might run into a situation where you have water shortage. This is a situation where the water level, the usage level exceeds the supply available. So you have more demand than supply, you will not have enough. Okay. Now the most common way globally to combat short-term water shortage is to ration water, which means to control how much water everybody has. Now, in an example, there are many ways to do this. You can either switch off all the water supplies. If everybody has piped water into the house, you switch off all the supply for most of the day, done by the government, and maybe the government will only allow you to have water, let's say between 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. every day. So the rest of the day, nobody has any water. Another way to do water rationing would be to switch off all the supplies and then not switch it on at all, but make them queue up and ration the water and have a water distribution center where people come, and based on how many people they have in their family, they're given a certain amount of water. Okay, so these are two different ways, but two very common ways of water rationing. Okay, now think about it. We've come to the end of this particular lesson. There are 3 questions that you need to be able to answer. So after reviewing your notes as well as looking through the first 10 pages of your textbook on water, you should be able to answer these 3 questions easily. You should be able to identify and explain the hydrological cycle. You should be able to list some of the common uses of water, and you should be able to define water shortage. Okay, now this is a diagram of a hydrological cycle. We will not be doing this today in this lesson package. We'll be doing this in week 2's lesson package, but just a quick brief run through. This is a simple diagram that you will be expected to produce together with the labeling A to G, items A to G. We will be running through this in the next lesson, so this is just a quick preview. It is not a very difficult sketch, and it's something useful that can help you in your descriptive process. Okay, now next part we will be doing the note transcribing. So the teachers will be giving out the A3 size printout with the notes. Please do not destroy the notes. Share. Each group will have one, so it will be easier for your group. For the rest of the lessons, you will be doing that as well as the 2-sided exercise. So if you have a lesson that is 3 periods together, you will be finishing the notes in the next 25 to 30 minutes, and you will have another 15 to 20 minutes to finish up the final double-sided exercise. An exercise needs to be submitted to the teacher at the end of the 3 periods. If your lessons is 1 period and then a double period, you will only start doing the notes the next lesson during the double period itself. So you have the double period to finish the notes as well as the questions in the worksheet. Okay, at the end of that double period, you have to submit the answers to your worksheet to the teacher. Thank you.